On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, now streaming only on Netflix.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. Per prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
The Blazers sweep Minnesota. Donovan Clingan dominates Rudy Gobert. Shaedon Sharpe is all the way back. The Blazers are playoff bound. I'm not going to go that far.
Slow down.
Welcome to the Blazer Focus Podcast. I am Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian with Craig Birnbach. Before we get to this unbelievable turnaround to go from getting mollywopped twice by Minnesota and Memphis and then to sweep Minnesota at home is just blowing my mind, Craig. I sat there last night going, what is going on? But before we get to that, we have to talk about Brian Wheeler, who passed away. Has it been? Oh my God, it was Friday. He passed away Friday. Yeah. Yep. It just seems
almost
like
a week.
Time flies by, man. Long time legendary. I mean, we talk about Sean's as a legend. They followed up with another guy who became a legend in Brian Wheeler, radio play-by-play guy. Of course, everyone knows, how bombastic he was and boisterous and the whole boom shakalaka and batum shakalaka and everything else. Just definitely had a great career here in Rip Season, but he passed away on Friday. I only met him a couple times. We did a couple podcasts together. He actually was on this podcast once as a guest. And then I was on his podcast, so we knew of each other as well. And then I interviewed him when Sean Lee died, but I didn't have the connection with him that so many other people in the media business did, like you and Mike Barrett and Mike Rice and Antonio Harvey, who worked with him for 15 years. So let's just start with you, just talking about a guy who, man, you probably, how many games you guys attend together? How many years did you guys go to Blazer games together?
Yeah.
And when you saw him and talked to him? Over a decade, right?
Yeah, 12 years.
12 years, yeah.
But to be honest, I won't, for me, game day was, we would chat and, joke, but that's, we spent a lot of time on the phone and watching sports together. I mentioned to you, he came to my house with my mom at Thanksgiving, which is it's my favorite Thanksgiving memories. My mom knows nothing about sports, nothing about the Blazers. My wife doesn't really care or know anything about that. My stepfather.
So you had him there.
So it was interesting because to see Wheels connect with people on something other than sports, which he could do because he was Wheels and he was just so friendly. And my mom loved him. He was funny, but that environment, I'm used to being in that environment as a sports person with a family that doesn't care or talk about sports, that's easy for me to go. But here I brought the Blazers play-by-play guy. Like in most places in Portland, this was in Tigard when my mom lived in Tigard. She's since passed, but anywhere else in Tiger, they want to know Blazers stories. Like, what's Damian Lillard like? And my mom wouldn't know anything that. Where'd you grow up? And how's your, but we just, funny guy, loved music. So we would talk about music. We would talk about other sports. Obviously, he was a huge Dodger fan. I'm a huge Yankee fan. So we would, battle there. But, all the things, being a Chicago guy, and we both went to, to medium-sized colleges that were decent at college basketball. So we just had a lot to talk about. And his life, people have talked about he struggled. He struggled and with his weight, and he wanted so hard to get healthy. So just sad for so many of us that he wasn't able to do that. Fentress, there aren't a lot of people that can out-talk me, like that. And Wheels could out-talk me. And we would joke about that because that's, kind of who I am. I would look down and be like, hey, Wheels, you just went 21 minutes and I didn't say one word. I got it on my phone. We would joke. So, but he loved people and he loved being the Blazers announcer. Yeah. And the one thing that people have mentioned it, people like Jay Allen that worked with him and got to listen to him every day, he was great. I mean, he was a great basketball play-by-play announcer especially for affiliated with a team, because he couldn't. I mean, he could have called national games, but half of the fun about Wheels was when they were losing.
Right, he was freaking out.
I just love that. If anybody who used to is supposed to shoot 30% would make 2 threes in a row, it'd be like, oh, but against the Blazers, this guy's a Hall of Famer. Against everybody else, he's barely on the roster, But of course, against us, and I just loved the up and down and his emotion, and he made it fun to listen to basketball. And yeah, he's missed. I missed him just being able to hear him do what he loved the best, and everyone that talked about him being generous with his time and being genuine. That's who he was. And I'll miss my friend. I did joke that, the Blazers gave him a moment of silence, and the Blazers did a great job honoring him. So this is no shade at all, but part of me wished that they did a moment of boom shakalaka or everyone yell, because no one, he did not respect silence in any way, shape, or form. Like that was not what Wheels was known for. Wheels was, he would fill up the silence with something entertaining and fun. So part of me wishes that everyone, instead of a moment of silence, we're gonna yell boom shakalaka or that's nasty. That would have
been a good idea. That would have been amazing. I'm getting chills thinking about that. 1, 2, 3, boom shakalaka.
Because he didn't like silence, man. Yeah. Anyone who was friends with him knew that he wanted to be communicating, telling stories, hearing stories, watching really bad television. He loved wrestling. I'm not a wrestling guy. So we would joke a little bit. He's like, come on over and watch I'm like, I'm not watching that. I'll come over for watch a football maybe on Sunday, but I'm not watching that stuff. I'm going to do this thing, Wheels. It's called read a book. I used to joke with him, So, and he was a very smart guy. So it's not like that. So, thank you. Thank you for letting me just talk a little bit about my friend.
Sure. I wrote a long piece on him at Oregon Live. Anyone who wants to go check it out.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I
appreciated that.
Oh, thanks. So I interviewed Harvey and Barrett and a guy named Rob Kloss who knew him. And then
Rob was such great friends with him.
Yeah, over the weekend I remembered I interviewed him in January of 23 when Sean Lee died, but I only used 2 quotes from it. And so I'm like, I can go
you got more. I can promise you got more.
And the thing is, I remember when I was doing the interview and my deadline was coming up. It wasn't, but I wanted to get him in there. And I just finally connected with him. And I remember thinking, because he was going into such great detail about everything that led up to him becoming the announcer. Right. And there was a few times I'm like, okay, let's go. Because I'm like, look at my clock. But
you can't cut him off. Cut him off.
Right. But he gave me so much stuff that I couldn't use it all, because otherwise it ended up becoming the Wheeler replaces Sean story instead of, honoring Sean's. But I went back to it and it's just gold. There's just so much good stuff in there. So I was able, for the first time really that I can ever remember, write sort of an obit feature with the voice of the person who passed, with, it's not stuff he hadn't talked about before, but it was just fresh quotes that had, so that was an interesting experience. But I wanted to do right by him because he was a very beloved character in this town. No doubt about it. But I wonder, because you mentioned how he would, and Barrett mentioned this too, how he would get angry or somber or be aggressive when the team was playing poorly. what would he have been saying on Sunday when the Blazers suffered their 7th worst defeat ever? And no offense, I don't imagine that Jeremy Grant's going to hear this and be like, screw Fentress. But dude, people in the press row area, if I'm not going to name names, there were a few times when we were chuckling. Like, everyone was looking around like, did you see that turnover? Did you see that bad pass? What kind of shot was that? It was a comedy of errors. They lost by 45, and that came a couple of days after Minnesota whooped them 127-102 in Minnesota, which was, okay, that's not a big deal. It's Minnesota. You're on the road, 4th game of road trip. But you come home, and Memphis is without Morant and Bane.
Oh, they're not a good team. And you just get killed. Now, the one thing I walked away with, aside from the 23 turnovers, is that you went 4 of 42 from 3. That was amazing.
Right.
Couldn't shoot worse.
Which is tough to do. But a lot of them were really bad threes because people were just settling. There were a few. I think I said this in the press conference where Ant had a couple of FU threes, and I meant F-it threes, where he was just like, screw it, I'm just going to jack up this deep three. Yep. But, if you shoot 30%, you only lose by 20, right? That's how bad it was. But those things tend to flip around at some point. So I wondered coming into Minnesota, they're not going to shoot that badly again. And then the first game on Tuesday, at one point, they were 17 for 25. They finished at 56%, which is the highest of anyone this season. And this is a team that went in shooting 30%, second to last in the league. Let's just start there. Because you watched the game, right?
Of course.
Okay, let's go back to Memphis real quick. Just because we almost did a podcast on Monday.
I'll be honest. I texted Fentress during that game. Can you imagine the pain for this?
Oh, and that too. Well, Billups said that after the game. This is awful. You should be embarrassed.
Can you imagine paying for this?
Oh, no. And what did I say? I said, I'm getting paid to watch it and I can barely stomach it, right? But here's the thing. We almost did a podcast on Monday. Had we done that podcast, it would have been trashing the heck out of them to the nth degree. Yeah. I'm glad we waited because we can balance it now, right? So your impressions, however you want to connect the dots, but just going from what we saw over the weekend to these last 2 days, what say you, Craig Birnbach?
I have figured it out. Okay. I know what the difference is.
All right.
Alien abduction.
Ooh, Monstars.
It's the only solution. It's the only probable thing. Like the team that shot 4 for 4,007 cannot then be the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA.
Ever.
Like it was crazy. I mean, I was, when you're listening to sports radio, you're on social media. After the 45-point loss, Billups had lost the room.
Yeah.
Like people were like, that's it. Last straw, whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but that was as bad as it gets for a team where you are. And Shaedon was terrible. Like Scoot was awful. Everyone was awful. Clingan wasn't a factor. You're like, what are we looking forward to?
Clingan had more fouls than points.
Oh, and he looked terrible, out of shape, and not able to play at the level. And then 2 games in a row where you're like, the first one, when you shoot out of your mind, I thought that was the fluke, right? Like, but I was impressed with Billups that they came out. And his stuff saying if you
swing well tonight, you're a loser.
You're a loser. And
the thing about Chauncey, real quick, Chauncey was a dog and a grinder and a leader and played on a team with Larry Brown where you had Ben Wallace and Rip Hamilton and Rasheed and guys who cared and played hard, right? He's not down with these little kids running around acting like they don't care. And he's not that dude at all. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And he just didn't let anyone off the hook.
Right.
And then they had the, whatever it was, the come to Jesus moment at practice the next day where you're like, we'll see. And then we did. The effort was there. The shots falling was incredible. But to me, last night, that is There is nothing negative from last night to me. To me, that's the best Blazers win in 2 years. And you mentioned, well, better than when they beat Dame and the Bucks. Yes, because most Blazer fans wanted Dame to win. I mean, that's just the truth. Because they were mad and they wanted Dame to win. They wanted to celebrate Dame. And in the end, last night, you had 2 out of your 3 lottery picks in the last 3 years. One looked like a legitimate starter at center after just 10 games. A defensive powerhouse who could make a dunk and a layup.
17, 12, and 8 block shots.
Ridiculous. And he was just kicking balls. He was like, get out of here. That's mine. And just diving on the ground and ripping things for jump balls.
It was like me when I played against my son when he was 8 on a Nerf hoop. Just get that weakness out of here.
Get out of here with that.
Mom, and that's what and
just right place, right time on the offensive end too to make the easy shots.
Yep.
And then Sharpe looked like an all-star, a potential
Sharpe looked
all-star.
amazing.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
33 points. He shot 3 for 10 from 3, and I didn't care. I was like, good enough.
Hey.
Because the putback, one of the greatest dunks, the dunk of the year for the Blazers, which isn't saying much.
Right.
But I mean, just one to remember, right? Now,
right.
It's one where you're saying, well, did you like this one better? Or did you like the one on Kessler? Did you want? I'm like, who? They're equal. They're all. If you're talking about which one's better,
did you see my post?
Yes. But I'm like, okay, fine. That one was sick.
We started talking about it after he said it because he goes, "Yeah, that was lit, but that's not my favorite." We're like, "What's your favorite?" He said Houston his rookie year when he got his first start, and Grant gave it to him. He dunked it, and then I brought up, "Well, what about Kessler?" And everyone was like, "Yeah, Kessler," because he dunked on somebody. But we had a little discussion about it before we left. It was kind of funny. But anyway, go ahead.
But that was, first of all, his dunk in the first half, where it literally looked like he hit the elevator button.
Yeah.
And went up and up. Like, how do you jump after you've already jumped? Like, that's how high that guy gets. That was awesome. Going to the rim was fantastic. He finally showed what Chauncey had been saying, like, just go, dude. You're the best player on the court. Just score. I don't care. You don't have to pass. We're not into that. Go ahead.
And he said, if you have any space, shoot it. If they get up on you, blow right by them. That was the instruction.
Right. There was no pass.
No pass. Well, if you double team, maybe give it up.
But I'm just saying, that's what you want to see. So I thought it was, I thought it was perfect. It was a fun game. It was an exciting game. Sharpe was Edwards last night. He was better. And, at that same position, that same athleticism, he was more athletic. I mean, Edwards couldn't hit a shot to save his life.
0 for 10 on threes or 0 for 9?
It was disgusting. It was just terrible. He couldn't hit anything, though.
I wanted my money back, and I got in for free.
And, Clingan was better than Gobert. You know what I mean? He just was.
Yeah, he was.
And I will say they were scared to get. Julius Randle could not figure out how to get past Clingan. He got him a couple times on some fouls, but he wasn't getting through.
Well, Clingan picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes.
But I just say, my man does not jump. He doesn't jump. He doesn't fall for the up fake because he's not going up. He just bends wrong when he fouls. He's blocking those shots because he's just huge and he's in the right spot. Do you know what I mean? He's blocking 2 and 1 because he's like, well, I didn't jump, so I'm already here. And that's why he can't win a jump ball, though, against guys that are shorter than him. But I just thought it was a perfect night. If you're a Blazer fan, that's what you hope for right there. And it is interesting, and we're going to have to talk about it, who wasn't on the floor and who wasn't there, and what does that mean? Because we do a podcast for a reason to get into the details.
Right.
But off the pure emotion and result and individual play of 2 guys. Well, 3, because Kamara was great too.
Everyone did something. If people weren't scoring, they at least were playing good defense and not making the silly mistakes. I mean, they still had turnovers, but they weren't as bad. But defensively, I just thought they were really, really good. Now, we could say this. Look, the first win, they shot ridiculously. You shoot 50%, 50, and they were 56% only because in garbage time, there were some clunkers.
Right.
But in the heart of the game, they were over 60. And then the next night, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league shot 17%, right? If they shoot 32%, Minnesota has a chance to win this game, or maybe they win it. Edwards, if he just makes 3 instead of 0, right?
Hey, everything was going perfect, and they were only up 6 at one point. And if one of those threes would have fallen, it would have been 3-point game.
Exactly.
And they just didn't. They didn't fall.
Well, that speaks to the randomness of the NBA. But let's go back to the whole, sky is falling thing. I've been trying to explain this to as many people as I can, but if you are going into a season and you're chasing a top 3 pick, right? Like, you got to lose 60 games, close to 60 games. You can't lose 60 games barely. If you're not good enough to win,
you can't do it well.
30 games, 40, then you're just going to have some nights when you just get shellacked. It's inevitable. And so, like, last year,
good.
Right, exactly. So last year they lost 14 games by 20 or more, right? And then they lost 2 by 60, which doubled the amount they'd ever lost in history by 60, right? They were hideous and they were injured, and then they were tanking. The year before, they lost 8 by 20 or more. That seems like, well, that's not that big of a difference. Here's the difference. 6 of them came from March on, when they had shut down everybody and they were tanking, right? So you just can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I want to see some fight. And I want to say, well, you've seen fight. Most of their games haven't been like that. They've had 2, really. And so they're just going to happen. But at least what we saw the next 2 nights is that Chauncey brought down the hammer. Yep. And they turned it around. And I still maintain, and I'm not going to claim, like, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who can watch the X's and O's closer. I'm more of a football dude, and they can say, Chauncey's not doing this, Chauncey's not, whatever. I maintain, you look at what we saw, the effort the last 2 days, you put Dame on this team, just Dame at the point guard. And this is a team that can get to the playoffs. I honestly believe that, because you have more height, right? More rim protection, more height next to him than he ever saw in his life. And I had a little conversation with Dame actually in the offseason. He's like, I like this guy. I like Denny. I like Kamara. He likes some of the pieces they put together that they never put around him. Okay. And you add a couple stars to this lineup, eventually they're going to win ball games, and Chauncey's going to be winning. So I just think the crying about Chauncey to me is just ridiculous, because if you don't see how mediocre this team is in real time, then you're just not paying attention. That said, let me ask you this. When you do something like they just did, now are people going to be thinking, oh, see, we should be better. We just swept the team that was in the West Finals. And so then when they get back to losing because they don't shoot 56% from 3 and the opponent doesn't shoot 17, then people are going to crap on Chauncey again.
Yeah, but to me, I learned something about Chauncey that they do react. They do listen.
Yeah, that's always been a thing, but yes, go ahead. I believe that's always been a thing. But
I mean, you just didn't know, because sometimes it didn't matter what you said. It's supposed to lose.
Yeah, but I've seen too many examples where they lost the 60 spot at I think it was Minnesota or Oklahoma City at the end of that bad trip, and they came home. I think it was, and they came home and they played better immediately. But anyway, go ahead.
So what I'm just saying is that it wasn't just that they listened. He changed stuff up. He had to coach. He had to put lineups in. He kept Scoot out in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? Like, he was coaching. And Denny didn't play. Like, he did stuff. To me, and player development is what matters for this team right now. And it's 10 games, but Clingan looks good, and Sharpe did what he said, and he looked good. You can't judge Chauncey on coaching yet, because they haven't given him the opportunity to do anything. But honestly, I've said this the whole time. It's not just what the Blazers want. What does Chauncey want? Like, is Chauncey going to want to come back? And the Blazers, they might realize he doesn't, and they might decide to cut bait before. He's in the last year of his contract.
Team option. There's a team option, but yeah.
There's a team option, right. But they don't want to pay him maybe a lot of money for many years. And there's other teams that we know are interested in him. They were interested in him. And what you have said is you have definitely heard that no one's looking at this and saying, oh, we were wrong about him because of what he's doing here. So
there's no way people who understand basketball are looking at the Blazers or playing the Blazers and going, man, how come Chauncey isn't competing with this squad?
Right.
You would just have to be ridiculous. You have to be a completely myopic fan to believe that this team is supposed to be winning.
And I like watching him. He'll grab a guy out of the huddle. They'll let him go to the huddle. He'll walk him out, arm around him. So he's embraced the development part. So I'm not sold either way on Chauncey, but I'm also thinking people should stop worrying about how sold the Blazers are on Chauncey and be a little concerned or understand that how enthralled is Chauncey on wanting to stay here.
Yeah, no one wants to. I would have loved if he had been able to leave and go to a much better team. So all these haters would have been like,
to the Suns, right? Like if that would have happened.
Wait, what? He's going where? Anyway, so.
But look, there's no way you can look at this team and see what happened after a 45-point loss and then see their effort and how they played on both ends of the court. One game where their offense was off the charts and another game where you could say their defense won it. And not say, good job, Chauncey Billips and the coaching staff. You can't say that he didn't do a good job because the attitudes were better, but he also, offensively, they killed it one game. Defensively, they killed it the other. So
there's going to be more bad nights.
Because like you said, there's going to be a lot of losses.
There's going to be bad nights. There's going to be bad nights. The other complaint was I'm not seeing the player development. I challenge people, like what? Sharpe missed 50 games last year. And he missed all of training camp, and he comes back and he struggles. That's somehow bad coaching. Scoot can't shoot yet. So is Chauncey supposed to wave some magic wand and poof, yes, Scoot can shoot now? No, that doesn't make any sense. Now, Kamara, Rupert, and Murray have all played way better this season than they played last year.
Murray played really well. Best game he's ever played last night. I've been a critic.
Yep.
Give him credit. He was aggressive, both ends of the court. He looks like an NBA player.
He's just a smarter player now, and he's shooting better. But again, that's a high first round, or late first round pick, and 2 second round picks, right? And he hurt most of last season. This season, he's been struggling.
He wasn't going to develop Ant. Ant was developed.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm saying if you're making, I'm just saying people are nitpicking him. I'm just trying to point out each individual and say you can't. And then Denny's struggling. So it's Chauncey's fault now that Denny keeps attacking the rim when there's a big right there in front of him and keeps missing layups. Like there's certain things you just cannot blame
there. You just can't
coach for. And then the whole thing always comes out. He only had that 1 year as an assistant. Steve Kerr had 0 years of experience, took over a 53-win team with 2 amazing players and 1 really good player. He didn't teach Steph Curry how to shoot 3 or Klay Thompson how to shoot 3. Now, he put them in a position to accentuate their abilities, but that was a 53-win team, and they won 4 titles. And then it gets Durant, and they win 4 titles. So now, it's Kerr. No, there's no evidence that Kerr is a better coach than Billups. If Kerr were coaching the Blazers, they'd be getting their head kicked in. If Billups coaches Durant, Klay Thompson, Curry, and Draymond Green, I guarantee you they win a championship. Absolutely guarantee it. So anyway, we can go on forever about that. I think it's important we move on to this. No Ant, but more importantly, the last 2 nights. First, let's talk about Ant. Okay, so Ant leaves the game in the first quarter, holding his chest. I didn't see it, but they said he was out chest. I'm like, chest? What does that mean? I asked Casey Holdahl actually because I texted someone first and they said, we don't know. We're doing tests or whatever. We're checking them out. And then I asked Casey, who works for the Blazers, and I said, so chest, did he get hit? Did I miss something? He said, no. I said, is this internal? He's like, it seems like it. That's clearly scary, right? Because now you're thinking this poor kid, 25 years old, is having some kind of health issue. Like, what? Turns out later they said he just had some shortness of breath. He was fine. Tests were normal. But he woke up Wednesday. There was no way they were going to play him Wednesday anyway. But he woke up Wednesday, still wasn't feeling great. But they believe he's going to be fine. Everything's okay. There's nothing alarming. So that was good news coming out of that situation. And we'll see when he returns. They don't play again until Sunday against Atlanta. But he left the game, and he's their best shooter. He's struggling this year. Right? He's off to a bad start, but he's your best shooter, and you have the best shooting night and 3-point shooting night of any team in the league so far this season. And then the next night, Ant is out, obviously, and Williams comes out, and Ayton's already out. And that opened the door for Clingan to have a big game. But the big thing to me in all of that is Ayton being out. Ayton's out for 2 nights, and all of a sudden, you don't have a big taking mid-range jumpers. Instead, you have 2 bigs who only care about playing defense, rebounding, and scoring when it's a lob or it's an obvious putback dunk or whatever. They're not trying to take mid-range shots. And my thing is, when watching that, is that the only thing Ayton does better than those 2 is he is a better scorer. But you don't need scoring on this team. I believe that if you had a series between the Blazers with Ayton, backed up by one of the 2, but it's 35 minutes to 13, versus the Blazers with Clingan and Williams playing at the 5, that team wins that series 4-1, because those 2 are going to give you more of what you need and be more productive overall than the team with Ayton swallowing shots and taking them away and being in the way by taking those mid-range and not rolling to the basket, by being in the way of guys who want to slash and fly like Shaedon, like Grant, like Scoot, like Ant. So I'm looking at this. It's just 2-game sample, but I'm just saying, man, they're a different team without Ayton in there clogging things up and taking shots.
So I don't care if they can win or not. You know what I've said the whole time. Right. It's like, what's the point?
Okay, no, I know. I'm talking about
like
mainly
Ayton
bigger,
is not, what's the point? He's not going to be here.
Well, that's my point. Yeah. That's my bigger picture point, is that I think they're going to be clearly better, I think, moving forward without him, but still he was a big piece of what they got back in the whole trade package, and not being able to maximize the talent that he does have, I think it hurts. But if your style of play doesn't warrant someone like that, and you're able to get what you're getting out of someone like Clingan, and again, it's just a one big game, he's had some duds, then moving forward, to me, it's just a no-brainer that you're going to go with the rim protecting center who's going to set screens and roll to the basket. And then he's going to be surrounded by Ant, Sharpe, Grant, and Cooper Flagg. And then you're pretty good.
And Cooper Flagg, just Cooper Flagg.
Or Ace Bailey. I'll add to that. So, go ahead.
So you missed a huge part there. You forgot to list on a rookie contract. I mean,
true.
But that's it. On a rookie contract, this, to me, Robert Williams, you're going to look, if you could trade him for a first-round pick, you're going to trade him, but can you trade him? I don't know. He's got an injury.
There's rumors out there your Knicks might be interested.
Yeah.
And the Lakers.
We need
Of course, it's always Knicks and Lakers, right? That's the engagement. There's no way. Both those teams want him. It's like, we need to create a rumor. Who should we use? Charlotte and Indiana. What are you, dumb? New York and LA.
No one reads that.
Want them? No reads that. Exactly. Doesn't matter.
Nobody's on. So, but look, I don't know. His contract's a good contract. But the problem is he's injury prone, right? So
Robert,
I think they have a better chance of wanting to keep trading Ayton. It's like, who wants these?
You're gonna have to
parts?
add assets to move Ayton,
and no one wanted him. You know what I mean? You got him because they didn't want him. The Suns didn't want him. They'd rather have Nurkic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and you played a lottery ticket, and everyone was like, yeah, you're not going to win that. He's going to be fine if you want a guy that, he's been fine. He hasn't done anything wrong. Double-doubles, it's just, does that work in the NBA at all? Well enough on a team that is where wins aren't the factor and developing is the factor. Look, to me, I've said the whole time, it's all about figuring some of this out, right? Where's your future?
Right.
What parts will be there when you don't stink? And Ayton is not, I've said it all along, I do not see him as a part on the team that doesn't stink. I just don't. And Clingan last night, look, I don't know if he could even, like, what do you think? He slept 23 hours after that game? I mean, like, he was exhausted. He's not in that shape yet. But, God, he's got the effort and and he wants it.
And
you
he
look and
cares about
say,
doing the dirty work.
Oh,
that's his goal, is to block shots and rebound. That's what he cares about. It's unbelievable. And you're right, setting strong picks, rolling to the basket.
It's huge.
Nurkic had a lot of ability. Way better offensive player, right? And Nurkic, when he wanted to, was a really impactful defensive player.
And before the big leg injury.
True, right. But there were some
his
nights,
leg snapped in half.
Yeah, no. But there were some nights when he was just kind of like,
yes.
Kid.
There's a reason why they gave him for nothing.
I know. Clingan doesn't have that in him. He's not that dude. At least not yet. He hasn't got
celebrated second call in summer league.
Yeah, he hasn't got the
That's all you need to know.
He hasn't gotten the $100 million contract yet, but he doesn't seem like that dude. Like he wants to be what he was last night. That's what he wants to be.
A monster.
And if he can be a role-playing big. Now, the other side of this, too, is he was going against Gobert, which Gobert got a rebound, had Clingan behind him, and went straight up to turn into him. I'm like, what are you doing? This Gobert is 7'1".
Yeah.
Clingan is 7'4", and it already blocked a bunch of shots. Like, I was just disappointed in Gobert, just that he didn't have any kind of pump or something. Anyway, that's a different story. But they're going to face teams with centers who are more athletic than Gobert, who can stretch the floor. Yeah. And then that's going to create some issues here and there for Clingan. So I'm not anticipating that this means he's going to finish the season 17, 12, and 5 a night. But he at least showed you the ability to play really well against someone like Gobert, which was impressive.
10 games in, he had a game like that.
Right. Now, I asked Chauncey, I said, did you
more
ever...
than 10, but,
I asked Chauncey, did you even consider that this could happen? Because he did not, he had too many fouls the other night. And he brought up the Utah preseason game when he had a 14 and 20 and 5, I think. And I was kind of like, what you talking about?
Count.
What you talking about, Chauncey?
That don't count.
That's preseason. It was Walker Kessler, and Kessler played 12 minutes, and Utah quit. But still, I mean, it is an NBA game, and he did put up, an impressive double. But I just love his attitude. I just love that, even if he's never a starter, to have a guy like that who's going to go in there and play defense and rebound and care and play hard is a nice get.
I mean, the part that's difficult is you didn't play 3 guys that are in your rotation who are supposed to be playing significant minutes, and you had the best game of the season, the most entertaining game, and so what do? I mean, Ant didn't play.
You don't do it. You go back to your team because look, Minnesota. If you play an NBA series, I think Minnesota sweeps.
Well, of course. Look, they were awful, and they're not very good right now.
So I'm just saying that we can't make too much.
And they haven't figured it out.
We can't think.
They're still figuring out what to do with Julius Randle and not having, Cat. They're still figuring it out. The Knicks are still figuring out how to play with Cat. This isn't. They're not better than Minnesota. Minnesota was awful. Anthony Edwards was terrible, and he's one of the best players in the league. He's not gonna go for 10 again, probably from 3 the rest of the season. Sometimes things work out. Right, you celebrate it and enjoy it. But the issue is, I don't want to see DeAndre Ayton play. I want to see Clingan. Now, I don't want to see Clingan get 5 fouls in 4 minutes, of course, and that's what could potentially happen. And we've always, now Scoot was not terrible. 5 turnovers. He wasn't the reason, but he wasn't awful. And the game before, he shot better than he ever shot in his life, but that's the thing. To me, where's your future? It's not with Ant and Ayton. Now, is there a chance there's a future with Ant and Sharpe? I guess, but to me, I think Sharpe, when Ant's not in there, he doesn't feel the pressure to give it up.
And when Sharpe's not in there, I think Ant really struggled.
I mean, when Ant's not in there, Sharpe feels more like I could go. Now, he's just come back, so maybe he'll be like that with Ant. He just wasn't in the games that we saw.
He might not get as many opportunities because Ant's going to be going, right?
Yeah.
I want to see Ant play with a legit two guard next to him. Like Tumani did a great job defensively, but it's not a legit two guard. If Sharpe is being what we all think he can be, and he is flashed to be, that is going to open things up for Ant. And I think it's going to make him a much better distributor because he has someone good to pass to who can score and create better shots for him because he's been off to a slow start. And I do believe part of that is that he's trying to run a team that doesn't have a lot of shooters or good scorers. I mean, really in the starting five, the best two scorers are him and Jeremy. Well, if he's being the ball distributor, who's he distributing to? So I'm looking forward to seeing him and a fully back Sharpe play together and see if they can be dynamic. And, maybe that's your future. We'll
and then
see.
what do you do with Scoot? Then,
well, Scoot's going to have to, he's going to have to get a lot better.
I know.
He's going to have to earn it. Like
I'm just saying, like, I was going full dream scenario. You know what I mean? Like, there's your 3 top 10 picks are all legit starters, and one's an all-star, and one's a defensive player of the year. The other one's a very solid point guard. Like, why not celebrate it for one night? But yeah, I just thought this is what gives rebuilding teams hope. And Blazer fans have not had this. They just hadn't.
Yeah.
I mean, Sharpe had some signs, but they were buried within, mediocre games here and there, or vets doing something. And Clingan, I mean, that to me is showing people like, oh, okay, yeah, I am not in great shape. I am slow. I am not super athletic. But this is what I can do, and this is why I was picked 7th overall. And guess what? In the NBA, this is good. I'm not going to shoot it from 18. I'm not going to shoot a 3.
No,
I'm going to dunk.
He's shot some threes, and I think he's going to grow there.
He might, but I'm saying that's not going to be.
It'll be like when he's just wide ass open, right? Yeah.
Right. He's like, I'm here because guess what? When my point guard goes down the lane and my guy moves an inch, just throw it up because I'm huge. And I can just grab it and dunk. And Julius Randle, you want to come down the lane and do your 16 pump fakes? Well, I don't jump for any of them. And now you just run into me, and I have disrespected your attempt at the rim. And if you did not get fouled, I have blocked your shot. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something, and that's something to look forward to. So, and gosh, I love seeing Sharpe try to. I mean, in the first half, he tried to dunk from like 45. Dude, you like, what is he?
Shaedon Sharpe, if he sees the rim. And there's no one in front of him. He is attacking it and trying to dunk on every single person in the key.
Yeah.
He does not care.
And he can't even jump that far. Like, he was like 4 feet from the rim, even if the guy didn't foul him. And it was one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean, Nas Reed was like, how's that a foul? Like, he landed on me because he was 3 feet short of the rim. But I've told you that from the get-go. Like, I love the fact that he thinks he could dunk on a Mack truck and he doesn't care. He's going to try.
It's amazing.
And then last night, they didn't have a truck in front of him, and he jumped up, and he just cuffed it on a putback where if you don't put a body on him, he's gonna be a meme, and he's gonna be everywhere, and it's gonna be awesome. So I loved it. I think that I enjoyed. There was energy, you know what I mean? Like, yes, it's a Wednesday, night, and we're excited about the Blazers. Yay, right? Like, true. I don't know. True.
All right, they have Atlanta on Sunday. Then they go on a trip. They hit Houston, San Antonio, somewhere else I can't remember. And we'll see what this team does. Again, we're not anticipating that anything's changed, that they're going to start winning a bunch of games or anything like that. We just know that we saw some signs of hope. And that's all we can ask for this season. What's that?
Enjoy the moment.
Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the back-to-back sweep. Hold on real quick. I got to make sure I get this right. Atlanta. Okay, they go to OKC, Houston, Memphis, Indiana. Ooh, that's going to be tough. Anyway, we will be back shortly on the Blazer Focus podcast. Keep the faith, Rip City. Peace.